Hi, welcome back to my channel. You might have guessed by the ace flag, I'm going to be reading an LGBT book. This is Camp by L.C Rosen, and I love the pun of the title because it is a camp for LGBT people. And it is not like one of those books where it's like, oh yeah, we're LGBT representative, and then they just talk about being gay. This is like a whole hodgepodge of everything. Which I think is really good. There's a lot of good representation in here, a lot of sensitive approaches to subjects. I'm so sorry, I'm sweaty by the way. It's probably about 29 degrees centigrade, which is about Celsius, centigrade, which is about 86 Fahrenheit, which I know isn't too hot to people who live like California way sort of way, but Britain doesn't have aircon unless you specifically buy aircon for your house. So I am just sweating, so sorry about that. So Camp is about a boy called Randall. He usually goes by Randy, but at this camp in particular, he's going by Dell, and there is a reason for this. Because Randy is usually one of those flamboyant gays. Randy is usually really into the musical performance side of camp. You know, they have something for everyone at this camp. They have the theatre show, they have arts and crafts, obviously, because that's what camp is about, right? They have assault courses, they have all sorts going on. And Randy and his cabin usually do all the musical theatre stuff. So, you know, there's a lot of references to quite old musicals, which I really appreciate because it doesn't date the book as much as, say, mentioning Hamilton. So yeah, there's a lot of great references to stuff like that. But this year, Randy might be staying in his usual cabin. He might be hanging around with all his friends, but he has an agenda, and his agenda is a guy called Hudson. And Hudson is kind of the camp slut. He goes every year, he hooks up with a guy for 2 weeks and then moves on to the next one. So like, Randy's like, I'm going to be the one who lasts the entire summer. Like, it's going to be me. But he realises Hudson doesn't, he's one of those guys who's like, I can't have a certain stereotype as a boyfriend. So he goes for the more butch ones. So Randy has dedicated the last year, since last camp, trying to build up this whole bro sort of image. And he's decided not to do any of the theatre stuff this year. He's going to do all the assault courses. He's going to spend as much time with Hudson as possible and just kind of, you know, lay the groundwork, and hopefully Hudson would go running after him. So it sounds like he's been really deceitful, but he's just like, he's spent time with Hudson before. Hudson doesn't remember because Hudson's one of those people who's like very set in his ways, in his way of thinking. He's got a lot of other things going on, so he doesn't really register things that aren't in his sphere, and that's not really a bad thing in per se. Like, if that's the way you're living your life, that's the way you're living your life. Like, you can't take on more. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, you can't take on more than you're able to cope with, really. So I do it, you know. I sometimes trim things that I don't need. Like, when I started to get ill, it was kind of a thing where I'd be like, one thing a day. So if I'm working, I'm not doing anything else. You can't invite me to anything. I'm not going to be able to go. You want me to go on to like a concert or something, I've got to have the day off for that, and probably the next day to recover as well. So I totally get like compartmentalized in his life. But that, like, Randy's like, we have had a connection before, he just doesn't remember it. So I'm just going to be the person he needs me to be in order to open that part of him up again. So yeah, it's a lot more layered than just one of those stories. But Randy's best friend George is an exuberant gay as well. He does sound a little bit too extra to be real sometimes, but I think George has a lot of heart as well, and he's not afraid to be who he is. And I think despite the extraness of it, that's a really good message to bring across. Their other friend, whose name I've forgotten now, is a demi-romantic lesbian. So that's quite interesting. I think, like, I'm on the demi aspect of the ace spectrum, So I kind of read those things and I'm like, is that quite what it is? Like, I really wish I remembered her. Oh, Ashley. Yeah, Ashley's whole thing is she's going to find a girl, she's going to get to know her, and then they'll go out, which I think is like how most people approach dating in the first place. Like, they date and then they get to know each other and then they're like, oh yeah, no, let's go serious. Like, with demi-romanticism, as I've experienced it, it's like, I have this friend and then suddenly it's like, maybe? Like, yeah, and it doesn't happen very often either. So I know we all experience things differently, as I've already said, but like that kind of always makes me a little bit on edge when I read stuff like that. But considering it's not L.C Rosen's, I don't even know, but I'm going to guess it's not her usual sphere, or his usual sphere. I don't even know what L.C stands for. But I know that women aren't, you know, completely separate from writing gay men. Anyway, there are other representations. One of their counsellors is a trans woman, and she talks about how difficult that is and how working at the camp helps her, how her Olympic dreams were kind of ruined because of, you know, she couldn't be herself while being herself. She couldn't be the runner that she was while also being a trans woman. That there was just too much stigma involved. So, you know, you get this real slice of life, but also, you know, this is where we were and this is where we are now, and that's where we want to be, but we've all got to get there first. And I think that's a really good positive message as well. Like, we are only at the baby step stage, even though we've made a lot of progress. We've still got a long way to go. And also, as I've already mentioned, being ace, there is an ace character in here, and at first I was a little bit apprehensive on that as well, because she seems quite isolated. She spends a lot of time in arts and crafts. She loves making dresses and stuff. And, you know, I spend a lot of time reading and writing. So I totally get, like, absorbing yourself in your hobbies and not really understanding that. But also, like, they address the fact that she is welcome at the camp. She is part of LGBT. But because there is so much pigeonholing and gatekeeping, sometimes people are like, are ace really involved? And it's like, I just want to put out there, like, being ace doesn't always mean you know. If you've never had an attraction to anyone, how do you know that you are attracted to your sex, or you're the opposite sex, or, you know, a non-binary or anything? Like, it's just not something that enters your sphere, really. So, like, how can you answer a question when you've never really considered the options before? It's like asking someone to make a decision about part of an operation, like which artery do we cut, which, you know, when they do bomb disposal on TV and they're like, which wire do I cut? I don't know which wire I cut. I know which wire I have been told to cut in the past, but it's been a long time. So yeah, I totally get, like, the whole sticking to your hobbies because you're ace and it's easier than all the other stuff. But she does make friends with some of the other kids in here, especially Randy. Randy kind of leads that because he sees the potential in her and he tries to bring that out. So I think that's a really good ace representation in there. They have an agender or a non-binary person in the book. It's been about a month since I read it and I've got bad memory, so I can't remember if they used they, them pronouns, or if they swap between him, her, and him, his, and her, she. I'm doing so badly. So yeah, I like other things in this book. There's things like a camp war thing, so everyone gets assigned a team, and it's really lame how they bring it about. But what I liked was that there was an assault course challenge in it, and everyone was like, oh, well, the jocks are going to win, and Randy's the only one going, the theatre kids will do it, because he knew what they were all practicing. He talked to his cabin mates, he's seen what efforts they've been going through to put together this show, and then they killed it. So I really like that it kind of goes against expectations a lot in that sort of sense. I'm going to spoil books when I do these reviews, I'm so sorry. He does get the guy in the end, but it's not as simple as he's got the guy. It's, you know, yes, they're dating, but there are still issues. You know, his parents, the boyfriend's parents, don't necessarily approve of him being gay. He's still got those things to work against. They, you know, they have to find their footing in their relationship, but also in the real world. Like the camp is a great experience for them to be who they truly are, but when they go back to the real world, they've got to be who they are within societal norms. And I think, you know, these are issues that get addressed are so complicated but done so well. Also, because I read this book and I was like, that is a fantastic idea, I have Googled, and there are camps like this, mostly for teenagers it looks like, but there are some family ones and some adult only ones, so it's definitely worth a look. I'll probably try and link what I found in the comments section if I remember. If I don't, I'm so sorry. I will go back and do it when I rewatch this. So yeah, that would be a great jumping off point, wouldn't it? Like reading this book and then finding out, or even watching this review and finding out there are places you can go and be yourself completely unapologetically. I can say words. So I definitely recommend this book. You know, I think you're always going to have issues when you read books that aren't, because you always come from a different place, don't you? Like you might have read something beforehand and that's coloured your view of this. You might have watched something, or, you know, in your real life things that have happened, and that means that when you read a book, it changes your perception of how you're going to read it. There are books where I enjoyed it immensely and then I went back a second time and I was like, what was I thinking the first time? Hopefully it won't be like that with this book. So yeah, reading is completely subjective, but if you can grow from it and find other things that you love and other things that fit you, then I definitely recommend doing that. So I think that's it for this book, and then for this video as well. If you liked my rambling waffle with words that I couldn't remember, then please like, subscribe, comment, whatever, and hopefully I will see you soon.